Brighton 2, Newcastle United 1 at the Amex, and the jinx continues. Hi everybody, welcome back to the Toon Review YouTube channel. My name's Paul. This is your match reaction to the game that has just finished at the Amex. And unfortunately for Newcastle United, it's nil point as we come away with absolutely nothing. Now look, first half performance for me, we started so well. We really looked hungry for the ball. We were passing it around nicely. We created a couple of opportunities. Bruno with a brilliant chance to put us in front, of course, just wide of the post. But we didn't test the goalkeeper yet again. And it took forever to even get a shot on target in the game. For some reason, we went into a shell after 10 minutes. And Brighton took control of the game. They were all over us. And we just couldn't get the ball off them. They created chance after chance. Nothing really serious. Some good opportunities. But look, Anthony Elanga. We need to talk about Elanga because, sometimes he looks like unbeatable. Like he did against Barcelona. Played very, very well. USG looked really good in the Champions League. But Premier League-wise, this lad is just not doing it. And why or how or what is going on, I do not know. Times today that he got the ball, and there was one especially in the first half where we had a 4-on-3 break, and he forgot to take the fucking ball with him. Now, I'm sorry, but just knock it in front of you and go. But then he forgets to take the ball, the move completely breaks down, and it's gone. And the crossing from Elanga wasn't great today. And Newcastle United looked stronger on the left-hand side with Anthony Gordon. Now, some people during our Matchday Live show said they weren't impressed with Anthony Gordon today. I thought that Gordon was one of our most dangerous players. He was getting to the byline. He was putting crosses in. But if you've got nobody there to put the ball in the net, what is a winger supposed to do? Gordon gets to the byline, he crosses it in, there's nobody there to finish it off. Gordon can't do much more than that. And he was doing it first half. But there was just something missing. The way Brighton were managing to come through us in that first half was very, very scary. Van Heck was getting the ball on the edge of the box and passing through our midfield, enabling them midfielders to turn and attack us. And it wasn't great. We were struggling. We couldn't get going at all. And, then the inevitable happens. Brighton score. And for the first time ever, a ball in between Botman and Chow. And Welbeck flicks it over Nick Pope. Now, Danny Welbeck has got this hoodoo over Newcastle United just as much as Brighton do. Because somehow he always manages to score fucking goals against us. Lovely little chip over Nick Pope to finish it. But there was a little bit of a misunderstanding between Botman and Malik Chow. Now, I'm not saying that that's the reason we lost the game today, because I thought Malik Chow especially was absolutely sensational again today. He looks a real bargain. And the one mistake he did make in the second half, somehow he made the 5 yards back to make the tackle and it went for a corner. But there was other things wrong with the game today. Many people could turn around and look at Dan Burn at left back and think, Minte had him on toast a couple of times. Is that why the midfield was looking disjointed? Because Joe Linton was being pulled out there and Gordon was having to come back and help out as well? I don't know. I don't particularly think Dan Burn had a bad game today, to be fair. I think he was sound. I don't think you can look at Dan Burn and think, yeah, there's another reason we lost. The ricochets, the look that didn't go our way with ball ricochets and bouncing to Brighton players was absolutely unbelievable today. The second half starts, and I'm looking forward to the second half because Murphy's come on. Obviously, Joe Linton came off. We'll talk about Joe Linton in a minute, but Miley did really well today. Miley was very, very good. And I think Joe Linton's place is literally at risk now. I don't think we've been performing well since the start of the season. Now, if that's down to injury or he's just out of form, I don't know. That's for Eddie Howe to work out. But Murphy came on, and Murphy got more in the game in the first 5-10 minutes of the second half than what Elanga did the whole half. But then we started to take control of the game. And the equalizer, obviously Voltemada, absolutely sensational piece of skill yet again. But we can't keep relying on this guy to pull us out the hat all the time. There was some very decent comments in our chat towards the end of the game saying other players need to start stepping up with goals here because Voltemada is having to do it on his own and out of nothing. That goal he scored today, not many other people could score it. It was a lovely little flick into the corner. No chance for the goalkeeper, and the defenders certainly weren't expecting it. So, for me, we need to step up. Other people in that side need to step up and start scoring some goals. You know, and then I make the stupid comment that, you know, there's only one team looking like scoring, which I stand by because we did. At that stage, we looked like the only team that was going to win the game. And then all of a sudden, 30 seconds later, Brighton have it in the back of the net. Again, a pass that cuts us open. Dan Burn comes across. Now, look, I'm not sure Dan Burn needed to make that tackle because Botman was there. Botman had already come across to deal with it. Burn flies in with a tackle. But again, the ricochet goes straight to Welbeck. And it's an excellent finish. And taking nothing away from Welbeck's finish. Beautifully curled into the corner again. And it's 2-1 to Brighton. And it is a real kick in the teeth. Because we were on the ascendancy. We looked like the team that could win the game. We were creating opportunities. And you just thought, yeah, we've really turned this game around on its head now. Let's go and get the 3 points. It wasn't to be, because typical of Newcastle United, it is a kick in the bollocks, and we drop yet more points in the Premier League. Now, going back to Joe Linton, there's something not right there. Listen, first 5 minutes, he looked really up for the game. He looked like he was all over the place. But then nothing. And that's why he was brought off at half-time. But listen, if he's not fit, then don't fucking play him. Because if he's not 100% fit, Joe Linton, then we don't get the benefits of his game. If he's not fit, he should have started Miley. Because obviously he wasn't happy that Jacob Ramsey could play a full 45. He brought Ramsey on with about 20 minutes to go. Fair enough. But start the game with Miley. Stop putting Joe Linton on if he's not fully fit. Because we're not getting the benefits of Joe Linton at all at the moment. You know, Miley made a big difference when he came on. And, Miley sat in the 6, but he was getting forward as well. But, look, we need to talk about international break as well, because I'm not sitting here sour grapes making excuses up. But you could clearly see that, these players have come back from international duty nowhere near ready to go back in the Premier League again. And when you're travelling from all over the world, and I know what people are going to say, that, other teams have to get used to that as well. But the other teams, the other big teams in the league, they've got massive squads. They can cope with that. And that's what Newcastle United need to do if we're to get to where we want to be, is we have to put up with these international breaks. Momentum is massive in football. And we had momentum going into this international break. Massive momentum. We were playing so well. But then you break for 2 weeks and it takes it all away. But there is some players in that team who seriously need to start stepping up, because, you know what, Nick can't do it all by himself. You know, he was anonymous for most of that game because we weren't playing anywhere near to his strengths. We weren't getting the ball to him. We were just pumping it long, expecting him to win every ball in the air. And then when he does knock it down, there's nobody there to pick up the rebound, and Brighton are back on the attack again. So I just think we need a little bit of a change of plan here and there. You know, when teams have worked us out or worked the tactics out, try and switch it up a little bit. Try and do something different. But for some reason, we never seem to be able to do that. And look, it's very early in the season. You know, quite clearly, we're still inside the first 10 games of the Premier League season. But what we don't want to do is be too far adrift by the time we do actually get going. And we do start picking up these points, which we will. Because inevitably, losing Livramento and Lewis Hall are two massive players who help our wingers out. And there lies the problem. Trippier and Byrne are not going to do what Livramento and Hall can do by, creating that overlap and laying it off to them to get the crosses in or using their pace. That's what we miss right now. We miss Wissa, because Voldemar is having to do it all on his own. But then again, if Wissa's up there all by himself, what difference does that make if we can't get the ball to him? So There is definitely a lot still to work on. There's definitely a lot still to come from Newcastle, because we know that. We know that the players that are missing have got to come in. But some of the players that are already in that team need to start chipping in and getting some goals. Because at the moment, it's just sort of 1-0s and it's Voldemar. You know, he's got to really play a lot of games in the next few weeks. And other guys are going to have to step up and start helping him. Simple as that. Because the players that are missing are a huge miss. But we have to be able to cope with that. It's frustrating. I'm actually really pissed off about today, because that was an opportunity to win. I thought we turned the game around on its head in the second half, and looked like we were the team that was going to win. But unfortunately for us, again, it backfires and we end up coming away from the Amex with nothing. But as usual, let me know in the comments what you thought. Who stood out for you? Who needs replacing? And we'll obviously talk more about the game in the match review tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. But thanks very much for watching. Give it a like if you've enjoyed the video. And of course, subscribe if you're new to the channel and like what you see. And we'll see you all again tomorrow. Take care.